Act 2. Such rhetoric has created a mass collective amongst the monochromatic, the collateral dependent, the generational plantation owners. And where was all this momentum during our time of record voter apathy that took place during the Bush era? Has this been modernized and converted into some form of jaded voter outrage with a sudden spark of patriotic dissent? Check this quote out. You can't reason with the mob. The slightly cleavage-bearing, mid-thigh revealing, and culture provided this quote, one of the slim array of words we can all agree with. Ah, Miss Coulter, with your glittery come-hither wardrobe, you inspire many instinctive emotions, but the dominant emotion includes inducing my own gag reflex. I'm pretty sure I understand how she can maintain her slender, aerodynamic figure. She feeds upon the gullibility and paranoia of most Americans and is able to regurgitate her views upon the general public. With the deadline of our country's next presidential debates looming over us like an oversized doomsday Timex, another instance of deja vu has begun to creep over many citizens. Another evangelical-based, self-righteous Republican governor from Texas has lassoed his way onto the American consciousness. Some might have to perform a double take when reviewing the bibliographies of the two politicians. One might have thought an underground laboratory would have successfully created a field of synthetic Republican monsters with the use of similar strands of DNA back in the 1950s. Both Rick Perry and George W. Bush also attended the same Texas Tarrytown United Methodist Church, carry similar work-related philosophies, where it's all about getting started and working hard and fixing problems and rolling up their sleeves and such. Can you imagine if Perry is elected, having such a repeat of identical presidential iconography, transitioning from one of the most vile legacies of leadership into another form?
He's a man, he's a treasure trove, but tell me, what is your name?
I'm MC Rose.
That's right, he can't be beat because he's so white from his head to his feet, but he will rap it when you give him a chance. Look at him move, doing a rapping dance. That's true, he's a dancing resident. He is the sidekick to the president. He's going way above. Tell me, what is your name?
MC Rose.
Such actions should appear to be very much business as usual, only to prove positive of the necessity of keeping Republican regulation firmly intact. They rub their hands with villainous content as such political tactics have begun to mold in their image. Regulations set by their regime made sure that corporate biased obligation would reform the democratic rights that were once set in place, quote, for the people, by the people. The term democracy stems from its origin during the conception era of the United States, demanding liberation from oppressive forces. The modern oligarchy has proven to maintain its dominion by contributing to monopolies with corporate might. Abraham Lincoln, the first Republican to be president, would have plenty to say about corporate bailouts, and I'm positive he would be revolted by their constant involvement mutating our democratic bureaucracies. Nearing the end of the Civil War, Lincoln wrote, "I have two great enemies, the Southern Army in the front of me and the bankers in the rear. Of the two, the one at my rear is my greatest foe." As a result of war, corporations have been enthroned, and an era of corruption in high places will follow, and the money power of the country will endeavor to prolong its reign by working upon the prejudices of the people until all wealth is aggregated in a few hands and the republic is destroyed. I feel at this moment more anxiety for the safety of my country than ever before, even in the midst of war. God grant my suspicions may prove groundless. The previous track was Steve Birch, Stargazing, the Corduroy remix. Act 3. Under the ruse of patriotism, Americana, and the Christian way, our citizens have aligned themselves with this self-destructive mantra. I've made the announcement to many of my family and friends outlining the foreboding dangers of class warfare. This unfortunate event within our society transcends race, gender, sexuality, and voluminous detail. Many conversations with both my own mother and father would acknowledge this fact and respond with defeatist submission. They're like, well, that's just the way of the world, was their individual responses during my minor confrontations over the phone. To my surprise, they tend to downgrade my sense of urgency, frequently retorting with a sarcastic, almost insulting pat on the head and get back to work rebuttal. It would appear our mighty American economic system, fueled by capitalism, has been in the worst state of disrepair, and many souls are lost. They wander about due to obvious humanistic ignorance. What's funny is that months ago, Evil for All Time, or EFAT, is my personal manifesto I wrote that also aligns with Marxist ideology. EFAT corresponds with my blog entries and provides further detail on how religious agendas are the martyr that maintains the walls that divide us. In addition, it holds religious and governmental motives accountable for the breakdown of modern society. I also mentioned to my father, former U.S. Marine, with my vocal opposition towards the current state of affairs. It would also appear that, quote, "I'm more American than you," was a phrase that slurred from my mouth as well. After all, this form of government consistently proves that by entangling itself with corporate cohorts and approved super PACs or political action committees would be far more beneficial compared to exceeding the needs of the general public. Obvious submission towards tyrannical rule would have been revered as being enemies of liberty and the colonies during America's Revolution. Maintaining patriotic dissent was the founding reason that created our country's foundation for the betterment of all citizens with the use of democratic collaboration. The needs of the many will always outweigh the needs of the elitist upper class, and regulating the tax disparity would be one method to generate much needed fiscal responsibility. But that would be considered a socialist act, a treasonous attack towards the collateral dependent, who declare themselves as modern-day patriots and boldly drape themselves in the once dignified stripes of the red, white, and blue. Closing out, the conclusion is accompanied by a track called Prelude, composed by Above and Beyond. And in closing, Evil for All Time, modern Marxists making momentum. In this place, sexual entitlements do not belong here. State and country does not contain power. Religious dogma will not shackle nor restrain. Humans must come together on an intellectual front to erode the perils of traditionalism that's creating many metaphysical divides. Sarcasm, encouragement, and progression are all the elements welcome here. Thank you for your time. Stay safe. Kenneth Neal out.